Welcome to MSP Unplugged's Resource Thursday with Darren Kattan from ImmyBot. I'm your host, Rick Smith. This is the place to learn tips, tricks, and strategies to run your IT service business. Whether you're a one-person shop or leading a team for the journey, this is the place for you. My co-host, Paco Lebron, he's out today. He's at the CompTIA ChannelCon, going on in Chicago. So we look forward to talking to him next week and see some of the great learnings he's gotten from there. Our guest today, as I said, is Dan Kattan. He is the creator of ImmyBot. Dan, how are you today?
I'm doing just fine. How are you?
I'm doing good. Welcome to the show. Before we get started and talk about what's going on with Dan and ImmyBot, I want to give everyone a quick reminder. We are approximately 6 weeks away from TechCon Unplugged. Actually, 6 weeks from this Thursday, which is the time of this recording, we will be in Chicago getting ourselves set up. TechCon is September 16th to the 18th at the Hilton Rosemont Chicago O'Hare. I am not going to give the spiel because if you've listened to the show at any time in the last 6 months, you've heard it. I'll just tell you this. We do have a few tickets still available. We have almost finalized all of the speakers. We have all the vendors set. We have all the breakout sessions and the in-place presentations for the groups. They're all set up. We're just finalizing some of the speakers. You can get an update at techconunplugged.com. The pre-day show with Huntress and Matt Lee, which is entitled MSP's Worst Day, basically getting you prepared for what to do in case of a breach. That will be on Friday. That is our pre-day show. We also want to basically give a good shout out for our sponsors for our Saturday night social, which will be on which is Gradient and Acronis. And that will be at our offsite location. If you've been there before, you know how that works. But we look forward to seeing everyone there. Tickets, again, can be purchased at techconunplugged.com. There are some discount codes still floating around. So if you need one, feel free to email us, or any of your vendors who are participating in the show will have a discount code to save you a few bucks. All right. Now that we got through the public service announcement, so Darren, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you came to what brought prior to ImmyBot, and then what got you to ImmyBot.
Sure. Well, the whole thing started really in the 7th grade. I met my business partner. He was trying to put together a computer club. I was the only guy that showed up. I'm from New Orleans, and we wanted to start some sort of tech company. We ended up deciding on the name Immense Networks because we wanted it to be big, huge, gigantic, enormous, right? We went to college together. He studied computer science. I studied computer engineering. And then Katrina hit. We're at LSU at the time. And shortly thereafter, there was the opportunity to start helping rebuild specifically IT environments for all the affected areas. So our first big project while we're still in college that kind of got us started was setting up 500 computers for a school, and they had ESXi 3.5, or I guess it was ESX at the time, right? And we had never messed with this stuff before. So we had to do a lot of scripting, a lot of imaging, a lot of Heron's boot CD. But we made it through. We got really good at group policy. And at the time, it was, the VB script, right? But we had a focus towards automation because we learned to program and at school. So we really wanted to take that with us when we started what ultimately was Immense Networks, IT company. Next inflection point for us was joining HTG, which is now ConnectWise Evolve, or IT Nation Evolve, and that was just transformative because we realized that selling block hours isn't managed services. And what we came to learn was, in order to sell managed services, the benefit, at least for you, in addition to making more money, is stack homogenation. So I attended my first IT conference a year after, so that would have been 2016. Went to Automation Nation. I'm sitting around, and at this point, I'm really good at PowerShell, and I'm at the bar talking to a bunch of guys, and they're saying, oh yeah, I've written scripts in Automate to install Office, and I've written scripts to install Adobe Reader, and like all of these things. And the next guy's like, oh yeah, I've written a Office install script too. Mine can do the 64-bit version. And then the next guy's like, oh yeah, I've got 80 hours in mine. Mine can remove the 32-bit version and remove the incompatible access dependencies and then install the 64. And I'm like, oh my God, what a collective waste of time. All of us are here because we're literally writing the same script. So that's just that we're interested in automation. We are trying to solve the same exact problems because every MSP is responding to the same industry changes, right? Microsoft wants everyone to go on 365. Well, you better start licensing all your customers, right? And I realized that and I said, okay, all the scripts that I have seen these people produce when I look at them are like, meh, and I knew I could do it better, but I was not satisfied with the tooling that was available for MSPs. You look at all the RMMs that are out there, and with a handful of exceptions, most of them were developed 20 years ago, and their age is showing both through the security issues that they have and through just the clunkiness of these platforms as they bolt on largely haphazardly all these acquisitions that they do. And you're not really seeing a whole ton of true innovation in the space. Nobody's taken advantage of all of the technologies that now exist in the development world. So I'm coming from Visual Studio and like really like performant, well, that's arguable about Visual Studio, development environments and with really robust debugging capabilities. And then you step into the MSP wasteland of tools and it's like, sometimes the breakpoint will hit and it takes 5 minutes for the debugger to start. And it's impossible to write quality automation if you're what I'm going to refer to inner loop of development takes 5 minutes plus to reproduce some problem, right? So I needed to create something that was fast. And at the time that I'm building this, I have the luxury of PowerShell being standard on every machine. The term at scale had been coined, and service and things like service buses and Redis and all of these other really great technologies that had to be invented from scratch by all the legacy RMM vendors, and they now stick to their legacy implementations because they're too scared to change anything. I can just build on top the shoulders of giants, right? I've got cloud in my pocket, right? I got WebSockets. I've got all of these great things to build a performant tool, right? And a lot of people are sitting here saying, oh, well, you know, Microsoft's going to come and Intune is going to be great. Maybe one day Intune won't have an empty app catalog for all of your customers, right? One day Intune might be real time, right? But I needed something now, and I needed something that could help me deploy that homogeneous stack to all of my MSP customers. And then at the same time, I've got another problem that affects every MSP, which is new computer setups, right? This is like the easiest thing. Like if a computer goes down, right, at a customer's site, you say, hey, look, we got to replace the computer. Just replace the computer. Oh my God, seriously? Like just replace the computer? Let's think about what's involved. All right, so Rick, I'm going to ask you a question. If you had to trust one of your IT guys to set up your computer with all of the stuff that you personally use, think about your weird line of business apps, think about the different VPN connections that you have, think about all of that stuff, right? You know you're going to have to sit here and like manually tweak this thing, right? And from my perspective, I'm literally losing customers because I'm chasing after Adobe Acrobat deactivations on old PCs and trying to get the serial number to work with upgrades and all this. And I'm just like, oh my God, it could take weeks for a new computer to get set up with all the stuff that the guy is expecting. And of course, they receive the computer and the first thing they're going to tell you is, you forgot to install this. This isn't configured right. Right. And it has like a really poor, when they see that, it looks bad on you. Right. But if you think about the computer setup problem and you think about the MSP stack homogenation problem, they're one and the same. Right? Because all you're really trying to do is enforce a desired state on all of your workstations. So if I put this in like developer speak, I'm talking infrastructure as code. I'm talking about desktop configuration as code, right? Where it's not about, can I fix the problem? It's about, can I recreate a workstation with everything that's supposed to be there quickly and reliably so that when I do need to replace the machine or I do need to wipe and reload something, it doesn't take forever to get it done. And you don't have end users sitting on their hands, right? And when you're onboarding, you can use those same rules to say, okay, well, all of my customers that are paying me for Sentinel-1 based on my PSA, they should get Sentinel-1, right? And now let's think about the problem from the perspective of the technician who's setting up the machines, right? We have a tendency to put the greenest guy on the bench, right? But he doesn't have that domain specific knowledge about each specific customer to know the nuances of their setup. So he gets a computer, he unboxes the thing, and he knows what customer it's for. If he's lucky, he knows who the primary user is going to be, which helps. But beyond that, does the machine need to be domain joined, or should we put it on Azure AD? Does it need a VPN client? Do I, if I need to domain join it, I need to join it to the VPN first. So I need to know what the VPN client is and what the profile config needs to be so I can connect to it and join it to that domain. And then what sort of licensing does this person have for 365? Or is this an apps for business customer, apps for enterprise, project, Visio? Does he have any of that stuff? Right. And then what about the line of business apps that this guy uses? Is he an accountant? Does he need QuickBooks? Is he an engineer? Does he need AutoCAD? You know, there's so many variations, even on a person by person basis. Right. So so the way I designed this to work is when you create a rule in ImmyBot, you're basically saying, yeah, all my customers in general get this, but maybe this one specific customer doesn't get Adobe Reader. They have an Acrobat license. You make a rule that says, okay, this customer doesn't have Reader. So you either ignore or uninstall that whenever you're setting up a computer for them, or you say, and then, well, in addition, you say, okay, then they should have Acrobat, perhaps with this license, or they should have Bluebeam, perhaps with this license, right? And so when you go to set up the machine, Immy looks at all those rules, evaluates them, similar to how, like, if you were to do a GP update force, right? And it like evaluates all the policies for the machine. It does that and then just starts installing all that stuff, right? And anyway, I feel like I'm doing all the talking. Rick, I'm sure you have questions. You still there? All right, I put you on the spot. You're probably on mute. Oh, hold on. Oh, yeah, you are.
Okay.
All right.
This is the the benefits and the negatives of a live show. So I did go on mute because there was some noise in the background, so I didn't want it to disturb you. And then I start talking and I forget to take it off mute. Sorry about that.
It happens. I do a lot of these. All right. So questions so far. I
formed some questions and you answered them in the next breath. So, but I do want to ask this: how is Emibot deployed? Like,
okay, I'm glad you asked that question. All right, so what I have right here, imagine, see this guy? This is a USB flash drive, right? We have our custom little USB guys. So you have USB-A on the front, you got USB-C on the back for your newer machines, right? And what I'm taking advantage of here is that Windows, when you place what they call a provisioning package, a .ppkg file on the root of one of these, it will, if you're at that out-of-box experience screen, it will just ingest that. So what I have ready to go over here is a brand new Dell Precision at that out-of-box experience screen. And I can show you how that process works. All right, so because it's not even on the internet yet, I have to take my camera and point it at the monitor that I've got it plugged into. Hold on, let's hopefully not unplug my webcam. And I do have Screen Connect ready on it, but okay. So just to prove to you, that's where we're at, right? Okay, so let me go ahead and set my camera up here so y'all can see. All right, and then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this flash drive, I'm gonna insert it into that guy. So hold on one second. Should have been ready with this, the tripod. Here we go. So taking this USB here, that's going in the machine. Okay, and that's it. So I could remove the USB now, right? You could kind of see here. All right, so it's doing the setting up your PC. It's going through all this. So what this is doing is it's installing our agent. It's causing it to skip the initial like privacy settings screen. It's going to skip the rest of the out of box experience, things like that. And then what we're going to see momentarily is it's going to connect to the internet. And then we're going to see on this screen, it's going to have Screen Connect just because I pre-installed it. So the demo would be a little bit easier. I wouldn't have to hold this camera forever. All right. But on this screen, it skipped straight to the logon. All right. And we're done right there. All right. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the camera back on me. Have you ever had a live demo on one of these? A
little. We once at one or two.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm one of those.
Okay. The challenge is most of our audience is on video. I mean, is on audio. So
Okay.
we'll see. So some people are gonna have to imagine what we're seeing here.
That's fine. That's fine. So, all right, what I'm going to do is I'll switch over to sharing my screen, and I'll show you what's actually happening behind the scenes inside of Emmy. So let me go ahead and switch over. All right. So the machine just showed up inside of Emmy. This is it right here. All right. And I'm asking for 2 pieces of information. Tell me who the customer is, and then tell me who the person is. And with that, I should, if I set all my rules up correctly, be able to infer everything else, because the customer tells us what agreements they have since we tie into the managed API. The person tells us what Microsoft licensing they have. That also tells us what groups they're in. So if they're in an engineering group, we can make rules that say like AutoCAD is supposed to be installed, or you get it. All right. So for the purposes of this, I'm going to say that this is going to be for me. All right. And we do have the ability to override the computer name if you wanted to rename it, but I prefer to do like a template-based approach. We'll go over that later if we need to, but I'm just going to hit save. And then we are going to start onboarding the machine. And this is really where the magic happens. So this is where you could override this computer template. You don't have to allow people to override it if you don't want, but it's there. So it's going to name the computer something like ABC, and then pound is just going to be like 001, 002. But you can change that to have all of these different tokens inside of it, right? So we've solved the computer name problem, right? That's where we've started. So this is the sessions page. And by the way, what you're looking at is a unreleased, but coming out hopefully today or tomorrow, the brand new UI overhaul that features dark mode, as you can see. And I know you can't appreciate this because you haven't seen the old UI, which wasn't bad. It was all like bootstrap and whatever, but this was like a custom designed, like, I'm so proud of this. So the concept behind Emmy is we don't want to do fire and forget scripting. We want to test to make sure that something needs to get done, do it, and then verify. So you'll see all these have these like 3 stages, right? And then once we determine that it's good, then we can mark it as compliant and move forward. That's super helpful if you've got a customer that says, I need to get the latest version of blah, blah, blah line of business app out, and they think you haven't pushed it to anybody. Well, since we check everything and we do this whole compliance thing, I could say, well, actually, it's already out on 90 of your 100 computers. It's really just these 10. And then it turns out they're your sales guys and their laptops have been offline because they're at a conference or whatever, right? So that helps you be able to give good, accurate information to your customer about the state of their systems. So what's been picked up here is, well, it needs to do the set computer name and domain join. We need the Zoom Outlook plugin. We're going to configure the SonicWall Net extender. It's looking for Windows updates right now. We're going to install Adobe Reader, Cisco AnyConnect. It's going to do Dell Command update. It's actually going to end up doing a BIOS update live on this session, and I'll show it to you. It's awesome. And we do that for HP. We do that for HP, Dell, and Lenovo. It's going to put Chrome, Firefox, and then it's going to configure Edge. Apparently, I've got the Datto RMM. This is a demo environment, so I've got a lot of like stuff that I play with in here, right? But you can see it sort of rolling along here. And if you wanted to get an idea for how fast the platform is, okay, now it's rebooting, so I picked it up like the worst possible time. It's going to come back up, and you'll see it just ripping through all of these scripts, right? We average script execution time is 98 milliseconds with ImmyBot. So that allows you to iterate quickly. So if you are writing your own scripts, you can really, really get granular because you can test a lot more quickly, right? But that's not really the selling point. I'm not actually selling this to really techie guys. And as a matter of fact, I find that the techie guys often blow the pitch to the business owner because they just want the cool tool. But the business owner's like, okay, well, what value does it bring me?
Right,
and I can't, and I can't tell the techie guy, hey man, this tool, like, all those scripts that you spent writing, the 80 hours you had in your office script, the one in ImmyBot's better. It's going to remove the retail versions of Office, the Spanish, French, and English. It's going to replace it. It's going to with whatever one the user's licensed for. It's going to remove any incompatible software. Like when you install Dell Command, it has to remove like the built-in one that Dell puts for Windows 10, stuff like that. We handle all those things for you. We reboot the computer. We make sure that your BitLocker is suspended. We make sure that Wi-Fi is set to auto connect beforehand. it's, we've thought about it. And at this time, we have 250 customers all around the world, MSPs that are using the product. So it's not like, maybe we got 10 people. Like we're starting to achieve critical mass, and it's really fun to watch the growth in the community we've built within MSP Geek, because now it's one of the most active channels. If you go to the MSP Geek Discord or Slack, it's just a constant flow of guys talking, asking questions, best practices. It's got its own like community. I really do feel like I've created a cult with this thing. People love it. So we'll get back to, so we could get back to the story while we're waiting. Because at this point, we're basically just watching progress bars, right? We're waiting for Emmy to do whatever sort of setup it's got to do on the machine. And then it's going to just tell us what the compliance state is of all those deals. Right?
Now, while we're waiting on this, to set this up, right? To set up, and for those who are listening, what we're going through now is the actual process of ImmyBot running and setting everything up for a PC. What is the initial time frame it takes to basically, I guess program is the correct word, or input what needs to go where for which user?
So the way I like to approach it is a breadth first approach as opposed to a depth first approach. A lot of guys will try to get it perfect for like one customer, and they'll keep telling their bench techs like, hold on, I've almost got it. Once I get it for this guy, nah, it doesn't work. What you need to do is I need to work with your bench guy, or your bench guy needs to sign up, and he needs to let Emmy do the baseline things that it does out of the gate, just so you know those things are getting done. So out of the gate, what we're going to do is we're going to create a profile for the primary person. And the reason we do that is because now that we have the profile, I don't want to ask the user for their password, because normally you only get a profile when you log in as them. I can create it without a password. And then that gives me the ability to go manipulate things like their default PDF editor, their default browser, things like that, right? We're going to set the computer name. We're going to domain join it if we need to. We're going to do Adobe Reader. It's going to figure out what the manufacturer is, apply all those updates. We're going to do, I know Edge Chromium comes configured on most computers, or comes installed at least, but there's one change that we like to make. We're going to change that default search provider from Bing to Google for you. You're welcome. But we also will set it to import any data from Chrome. So if you're trying to transition people so they're not syncing company passwords into their personal Gmail accounts, this makes that transition easier, right? And then, of course, we're going to go and install the appropriate 365 apps. And each of these will reach out to the Microsoft Graph API and figure out what that primary user was licensed for. So if they've got that apps for enterprise, that's the one it's going to install. If they got Visio, it's going to get that. And then beyond that, it'll install whatever RMM agent you have. So we can install all the all the RMM agents. We have direct integrations with Automate and Central and Screen Connect. We're working on Datto and all the rest of them at the moment. But I don't know if I necessarily answered your question. So how hard is it to set up? Well, you'll just go spin up a demo. You're going to get the login. We force you to sign in with SSO. You're welcome. We don't charge extra for that, right? Like what is it's SSO is a basic human right. Okay. And to think that this day and age, people charge extra for it, dude, it was easier for me to set up SSO when I built this thing than it was for me to even build like a local auth cache. Like I don't want to deal with how to properly hash a password. That's Microsoft's problem. Let their guys make that work. Right. Like that's just so ridiculous. Anyway. But yeah, so that we force you to sign up with Microsoft, and that hasn't been a problem. And then that gives us the ability to reach in through the partner center, and we could go and bring in information about all your customers and all that. So the initial setup is like maybe 20 minutes to get going, and you can be setting up a computer like almost immediately. But the thing that I want to stress is you're going to grow into ImmyBot. Every computer you set up will become an opportunity for you to get a little bit more refined for that customer, right? Or for that person. So you may be setting up a machine and you might look at it like I'm looking at it now and say, wait a second, this guy doesn't need Net Extender, right? Like, why is that even here? So I can go to details and I can click right here. It says, okay, wait, workstation portable devices at Emmy demo should have the latest version of Net Extender installed. Okay, well, that shouldn't be the case. So I click on this. This brings me to the winning deployment, if you will, the deployment rule that caused that to even be there. And I'm just going to say, hey, you know what? I'm going to delete this, right? That doesn't even belong anymore. And then I come back and I hit the session page. I'm just going to cancel it and rerun it. And it's going to be gone from the next session. No different than if you were to like remove a group policy and then like run GP update force, right? Same sort of concept. Okay. So And so you tweak it as you go and you sort of grow into it. So I recommend people just inject this ImmyBot thing into their process just day one, right? And then learn how to configure it, right? And I could make that bench guy look like a rock star if we could do that. And then if you're crazy advanced scripter guy that you may or may not have wants to, make custom stuff to do blah, blah, blah. Okay, man, look, like your boss has bought the tool because it brought value to him already. Have a field day, right? That's the concept.
Yeah.
Wait, did that answer your question?
That did answer my question. I was just, I guess I'm asking the question as a person who would be, as a tech who would have to deploy this, what is my initial, basically, what is my initial investment time that I'm looking to put this in? But I get what you're saying, and then that'll kind of be relative to what you need, and then you guys provide the quote unquote base to start with, and then we add on as needed.
Right. And I think really the biggest value here is that you don't have to create everything yourself. Like if you buy any other RMM tool, they're essentially selling you a bucket of Legos and they're like, okay, here you go. You can do anything you want with that. Dude, talent for automation is hard to find. Right. And so if you're an MSP owner and you think that you're going to go and get a guy that's going to turn those Legos into something useful nowadays, like that's going to cost you a lot. And that's going to take a lot of time to do. But if you use something like this that already has all of this automation built in, tested, used by other MSPs already, you may not even need that guy, right? So, like, for example, we've got every version of QuickBooks we can install silently, right? Right here. We've got all these Autodesk products ready to rock. All right. Like we could just install any of these and all this is powered by a single script. Like we have one script that installs Autodesk products that works with all of these. So, a new version came out. Cool. We pop it in there, point it at that script, done. Right. Because we pay attention to how all that stuff is packaged from these vendors, right? And we curate it. If something new happened, like last year, Autodesk came out with a thing where you have to use a -s instead of a /s. Like, oh my god, okay, fine. So what year version is it? Or okay, we compensate for that. So that handles it. So I mean, how much time would it take for you to, if you've got an engineering firm you do work for, to go and package all of these things yourself into your RMM? It'd take forever, right?
Exactly.
That's what I'm getting at. And you might be wondering, well, how do you make sure that we're always getting the latest version of this stuff? Well, this is pretty cool, right? Because now we're starting to touch on like third-party patching. Well, if you go and look at how this thing is built, we don't require you to necessarily upload the installer and the version anymore. You go in here, you could define a script that just goes and pulls whatever the latest available version is from whatever API provides that. So in the case of Edge, we reach out to this API right here. We get the latest stable version, we get the MSI version of that, and then we feed that back into the IMMY engine, no different than how we used to query it from the database when you would upload that, right? And then it can go and compare the version it got from Microsoft to the version that is installed in your machine and say, oh, you're out of date. I got to do an update for you. Here we go. And it's going to install this thing to keep you up to date.
Okay. Right?
It's kind of neat.
Yeah, that's pretty slick.
And the real power here is think about when you onboard a new customer, right? Here's another really cool thing that's sort of like a under the radar feature. You've got a customer you just got, and they ordered 20 new computers and they want them all set up. You've never set up computers for these guys, so you have no idea what you're in for, right? You're gonna have a bunch of pissed off end users. Well, the way we help with that, you ask your customer, you say, hey, is there any computer in your environment that I could use as a reference? Like maybe you've got a machine that's already set up with everything, I could copy everything. Yeah, we've got one. Go use Jim's computer or whatever, right? So I'm going to switch just briefly into a different environment where I've actually got that configured. I'm going to look at my own computer and show you how easy it is to go and copy all those things. So we're going to say my machine here. Oh, and also we track who logs into what machines. So it makes it easier to deploy software to groups of people with like existing machines. You don't have to manually specify for everyone. Okay. So you come over here and it says, oh, we see that there are 47 pieces of software on this machine that we know how to install. Would you like to make a rule that says it should be installed? So I'm looking here at my 3CX phone. I'm like, oh yeah, that should be installed on all the PCs at this environment, right? This is Jim's computer, right? So you're going to hit assign here and you're going to say, oh yeah, everybody at this environment here, maybe it's us, gets this software, right? Or maybe you limit it to specific groups. Maybe it's only the techs that need it, right? So we go to immense and we say, all right, the group here that we care about is techs. And then very quickly, ImmyBot produces the list of computers that all those guys use, right? So it gets deployed, right? And then the next time any of those guys get a new computer, this is just going to be on that list, right? So you see how it's like the deployment problem is just the same problem as computer setup?
Yeah.
You know? So anyways, you just rinse and repeat that until all the assignable software is now assigned. There are rules for it. And then boom, you're good to go.
Now, those that are, what happens with stuff that is like, I see assignable 47, assign 8. Or those are just already in the already done, right?
Right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a re-inventory.
Now, does it identify? I'm sorry, real quick. Does it identify what is not assignable? I guess what you guys do not have a. Okay.
Yeah, that would be the unassignable area. And normally you're going to find weird stuff in here, right? Like a lot of the, like for my computer, I've got all these dev things like, look at all these Azure emulators and like, stuff like that, so there's going to be stuff that we don't know how to install, but at least we tell you that and give you the fighting chance to go and install it yourself, right? If you need to, or upload it into Emmy, which we make stupid easy, by the way. Like literally you come in here and let's say the one I like to use is this program called Airtame. And I'm gonna run this demo real quick because it's a lot of fun. So we're gonna go and hit download on this. Situation is your customer needs this deployed to all their machines like yesterday, right? So who knows what the reason is. Of course, it's an EXE, so there's no standard silent flag for it. It's not like an MSI, right? So you're gonna come over here and you're gonna say, all right, I'm just gonna grab the URL to this thing. So copy that, put it over here, paste URL, boom. And we're gonna hit analyze installer. And this is gonna go kick off a task where we look at the binary of that EXE to determine what silent flags it needs. And once we have that, okay, well, what did we learn? This is an NSYS package. So if I go and hit next, it will, first of all, it identified that Airtame already exists and that this is a new version. But if it didn't exist, it would bring you here. So it's like, okay, we're gonna create this thing. It knows that it's called Airtame. Here's it searching your entire computer inventory for all the machines that have Airtame. And it knows that it was a nullsoft installer. So here you could look at, oh yeah, it just needs a /S for nullsoft, no problem. And you're gonna hit next, it pulled the version out of it, right? You're gonna hit create. Yep, and when I want to deploy that, that needs to go out to all of my computers at Immense. And I can just push that right now, right? So I might go and just pick my computer just for grins, right? And hit deploy. And we could watch exactly what it's doing right here in these logs if you wanted to, or you can go to our new fancy session page, which I'm happy about. You can see exactly what it's doing over here also. Actually, I was already in the middle of a session, so it's going to do that first. But I could go and push this to like this machine here. So then you get it. Once you really embody Emmy, then you start thinking about, okay, well, hold on. This is great for new computers. That's how I get my foot in the door, right? It's like, hey, I'm only here to set up new computers. Don't worry about it. Like, I'm not here to take over your RMM. That's like way too big of a commitment. You don't want that, right? Nobody wants to switch RMMs. That's a huge pain, right? Yeah. Then you start using it for a little while, and then you realize, when's the last time I logged into my RMM? Because what most people don't realize is the majority of what they were doing in their RMM was software management, and RMMs are not great at that. So then you realize, okay, well, what am I even really doing with this thing? So at this point, the question is, well, where do we go from here? Like, what does ImmyBot look like in the future? Well, we're going to offer a remote access tool. We are going to release what we call ImmyMDM as a competitor to Intune. The problem with Intune is, well, it costs money. You got an empty software library for everybody, and it does things when it feels like it, not right now. So the idea would be, instead of me having to put that USB in, you would go and set up, when you buy the computer from Dell or whoever your vendor is, I want this with autopilot, it's going to point to this tenant, right? And then you set all your tenants up to point, instead of pointing it to the default Intune enrollment URL, you point it to the ImmyBot enrollment URL. And so the net effect of this is you drop ship a computer to a remote user, never touches your bench, they unbox it, they sign in once, and then what you end up with is a computer that starts getting set up for them without any interaction. So here, I'll show you what this looks like. If we, let's see, this guy, let me play it. Let's look for a little GIF here. Of course, it's not going to let me restart the, yep, we'll go find it. Let's see. Choose autopilot. R.GIF. Yeah. Got it. So this is sort of like our, this was our proof of concept here, right? Mm-hmm. So here is the autopilot machine now enrolling in ImmyMDM. We are pushing out the Immy agent to the machine, and no USB was involved that time, right? And you're gonna see it get logged in a second, and we're gonna prove that the Immy agent got installed on it. So then the Immy agent could start setting everything up, and we're actually gonna set up the enrollment status page the same way Intune does it, so that the end user can know when it's safe to log onto their machine. They'll know like when all their software is actually done being set up, right? So that's the next step for us. But yeah, that's what we've got in the pipeline, and I'm very excited about it.
Cool. Well, yeah, I mean, it looks, you know, for those of you who are not watching this, you know, on the video portion of this, it looks really cool. So I would encourage you, if you're listening, this may be an opportunity for you to go and just check out the video portion on any of our shows, just to see some of what Darren has was shown us here. And probably I'm going to say that it's probably going to be even better to just contact him and get a demo just to see, you know, what we've seen here today. Now, I guess because we're pushing towards the end of the time period here. So, with you guys and your and we don't necessarily, if you guys don't post pricing on your site, then you don't have to talk about it. But is this a monthly fee? Is there a commitment time frame, things along that nature?
It's month to month, no commitment. The pricing as it stands is we have 3 tiers. We have Immy Workbench, Immy Deploy, and then we have this sort of like early bird offer we call Immy Forever. So Immy Workbench is really there for guys who only want to use Immy for setting up new computers on their workbench. Immy Deploy is the full featured product as it stands today. Immy Forever is a limited time offer going away before November that gets you all future features of ImmyBot with no agent count limits or anything for no extra charge, right? That's just sort of our land grab. We're just trying to get people in the door, right? And that's the most popular offer by far. So that one goes for $750 a month. I believe we're doing Immy Deploy for $500, and then we're doing Immy Workbench, I think it's $350 now. But I will post a coupon code for subscribers of your podcast here, MSP Unplugged, for a 20% discount forever on all those plans.
Oh, cool. Okay, we'll definitely put that in the show notes. Now, you guys do have a trial on this as well, correct?
Yeah, you get a 2-week trial, and we're pretty lenient if you schedule time with us to work on it, right? So I'd encourage you to just go set up that trial and just try to set up your first computer, right? And just see how far you can get. Schedule that call with us, so that way you've got good questions. You know, you've got a machine you can test with, and we'll work through all the specifics of your MSP, get all the different integrations set up, because we tie into basically every MSP. But any popular MSP product, we've got some sort of connection with, you know, and most of them are API connections. So it just makes it really easy instead of you having to like put in the manual keys for like, you know, Sentinel-1 for every customer or for Cloud Radial for every customer. Like, we just tie into their APIs. We pull that stuff dynamically for each customer. So it makes the setup a lot easier.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So this is, I'm looking, I was just checking out as we were going through, just checking out the site here and looking at your list of integrations, which is pretty thorough.
That's not even the whole thing. That is like, I wrote that 6 months ago, and it was just like the most popular ones. I mean, we add new integrations at least once a week. So yeah, we have a ton.
Okay, cool. Well,
and I will beat vendors up if they don't have an API either. I will get on their case. All right. I will join their vendor channel, and I will just harass them until they give me the API I needed.
Did they get an API?
And shout out to Cloud Radial. They actually didn't require that much harassment. They built me the API I needed. It only took about 3 weeks. So now I could trade the Azure tenant ID for the ID their installer needs. So you could very rapidly deploy Cloud Radial. And same with help desk buttons. They were very quick to get me the API I needed to do that also. And so I really try to, push those guys that work with me.
We did have Josh Weiss on Tuesday, and he bigged up you guys. He did big up everybody. So
yeah, he's a good
really
guy.
Likes it. Yeah. But anyway, Darren, I do want to thank you for your time. We're coming close to the end. We went a little bit over, but it's okay. But let me say this before we close out. Is there anything that you feel that we didn't touch that you'd like to just let our listeners know?
Man, I think we covered a lot, and I'd encourage you to join the MSP Geek community if you're not in it, specifically the ImmyBot channel. Just to get a feel for what it's all about, and it's a very vibrant community, and a lot of people contribute, and it's just awesome. So I'd encourage that also.
Okay. So now, if anyone wanted to get in touch with you to get more information from you or about ImmyBot, how would they go about doing that?
Just go to Immy.bot. That's the website, and you can go to the pricing page. You got some information there. We also have a docs portal, just docs.immy.bot, where you can sort of read through if you're interested in the more technical minutia. That's there. Once you're inside of ImmyBot, they've got a live chat feature that usually goes to me or one of our support guys, and they'll help you out real time. And then you'll get a link to our Calendly that lets you schedule time for demos, team trainings, custom automation, because we'll help you with that too. Anything that's weird, we love, especially if it'll help the MSP community. We don't charge anything. Just like, okay, cool. You got this weird thing that a lot of people use. Yep. We'll help you package it up and we'll get that into global. Right. So yeah.
Cool. Okay. Well, Darren, again, I do want to thank you for your time today. I do, as I said to everyone, I encourage you to take a look at this. If you're listening to this on one of the podcatchers, try to take a look at the video version of it where you can see ImmyBot in action. And if not, again, reach out to Immy.bot and look at a trial or reach out to get a demo just to see some of the great features that they have available and see if it fits into what you're trying to do. For everyone, I do want to thank you for your time today. I encourage you to tune in every Tuesday and Thursday. You can watch the video podcast, as I said, on youtube.com/MSP Unplugged or facebook.com/MSP Unplugged. We also broadcast live on LinkedIn, and you can find that at our Facebook page, MSP Unplugged. There's a very long URL for that, so I'll just say if you go to MSP Unplugged on our LinkedIn page, you'll find us there. We do encourage you to hit the like button. That does help us out a little bit, push the algorithm up a little bit for us. Subscribe, hit the notification button so you'll be notified the next time an episode is available. You can also take us on the go, which I've talked about several times, on your favorite podcatcher, which is on Amazon Music, Spotify, Apple, and a whole bunch of others. I want to thank you all for listening today. We'll see you next time on MSP Unplugged.
All right. Thank you.